Hey guys, it's Tommeh, and welcome to another ToonTown video. Today I'm going to be discussing the long-standing debate of which is better, trap or drop. As you can see right now, there is no video to this. There's just going to be images and like some information, title cards, etc. I was going to try to put some TTR gameplay to this, but the game is not working for me right now, so for now I'm just going to settle with this, and it'll probably just keep up with the debate a little more easily. So anyway, I was considering whether I wanted to actually make a video on this because while it is kind of a debate to be had because like both of them are pretty similar and they each have their advantages or disadvantages, that's kind of the exact reason why it's not really a huge deal because honestly they both serve their purposes. Like both trap and drop are kind of the nuke gag tracks of TTR or Toontown. For example, like they do a ton of damage, like far more than throw, squirt, or sound, and they just kill the cogs very quickly while having some like disadvantages that hold them back and keep them from being as accessible as throw and squirt. So the way that I'm going to kind of judge the two is based on a few different things. I'm going to judge them on like the individual gags and like how much damage they do. I'm going to judge them on the usage, like the versatility of them, and also just some of the other like ways that you can use them and a couple other perks that I'll get into. So anyway, we'll start right now with the damage and each individual gag. So starting out with Banana Peel and Flower Pot, this is actually the only, well actually no, that's not true. I was about to say that these two are the only gags in which there is a difference between which one is better, because technically a Banana Peel can kill a level 2 and a level 1, whereas a Flower Pot can only kill level 1. But then again, like a level 2, you can use other gags to kill that, so that's not really a big issue. Moving on to Rake and Sandbag, this is another kind of small one, because like a Rake can kill level 3 and a Sandbag can't, but then again, it's a low level cog, it doesn't really matter. So going on to the next few, both the level 3 gags, both Marbles and Anvil, can kill level 4. Both Quicksand and Big Weight can kill level 5s, and both Trapdoor and, what is it, Safe? Yeah, both of them can kill level 6. One slight advantage for the Quicksand, or I mean for the Trapdoor, is if you plant it, it can kill level 7, but I mean it's not a huge difference. Like honestly, unless you're getting up to like the really high level cog, it's not going to make too much of a difference. So anyway, moving on to TNT and Piano, a lot of people kind of jump to the conclusion like, oh, Trap is better, it does more damage. Well, in terms of those two gags, which are easily going to be the most used gags, or maybe the only ones that you use out of these tracks, you know, the 10 damage difference doesn't really make a huge like difference. It can be used in some gag combinations, which I'll get into in a little bit, but like with a 10 damage difference, it's really not that notable. So in terms of that, there's not really a winner. But in terms, when we're talking about the level 7s, there is one that clearly stands out above the other one. So the level 7s of Trap and Drop, respectively, are the Train Tracks and the Toontanic. Now, the reason I'm just going to go out and say that Train Tracks are better. And honestly, I think this is pretty indisputable because when you look at the damages, like at first you look 195 and 180, you know, they're not too different, and it's kind of like the Piano and the TNT, like they can all kill 11s but they can't kill 12s. But the thing is, if you plant Trap, then that damage of 195 gets a 19-point boost, which jumps to 214. And with that, you can kill a row of level 12s, which makes it the most powerful gag in the entire game, in terms of damage. So when you take that into account, honestly, it looks like Trap is a little bit better in terms of that. Because, like, and I'm not just saying in terms of damage, like, having, you know, the 2 more damage or, like, the 5 more damage throughout the lower levels of the gag. But what if you are asking for a winner in terms of damage in the individual gags, it would have to be Trap just because of that like difference right there. I don't know how many people plant their Trap gags. I personally did on a couple tunes because on like having that nuke was just fantastic. It's the perfect trump card because you throw out your train tracks, like the lure is more often than not going to hit, and like you basically get a free nuke of every single cog on the screen. I mean, unless it's V2, but even then you're not going to get attacked. So in terms of that, I have to say that trap is just slightly better. So anyway, let's move on to the usage and the versatility. In terms of this, what I'm talking about this is basically like gag strategies and what people typically do. So in terms of the lower levels, Cinch, Throw, and Squirt and other gags can really wipe them out. I'm not really going to worry about that too much. I'm just going to focus on level 11s and level 12s. Now, I'm just going to go right out and say it right now. It's kind of split in the middle between these two. Because you look at level 11s, and I can easily say that using TNT on a level 11 is my like most useful strategy in the game to kill an 11. Just because, like, unless you have an organic cake, which can kill one, there's really no other gag in the game that can kill level 11 except for the piano. But the reason why I think that the TNT is a little bit better for 11s is because when you have an 11, you're probably going to have other high-level cogs, and if you're not using sound, then you're probably going to be using lure. That's just common sense. If you're using lure, then an easy way to wipe out that 11 is just throw out a TNT. I mean, honestly, it just gets rid of it really quickly. Like, you can do the same with an organic cake if you have one, but, you know, if you're using sound, like, you're probably just going to kill all the cogs. If you're using lure, then you're probably not going to have as easy of an opportunity to use a piano because you'll have to use an extra gag to stun it, like a hose or a cream pie, in order to stun the cog and wake it up, because obviously you can't use drop on lured cogs. So, in terms of that, I honestly just think a TNT is better to kill a level 11. Now, when we're talking about level 12s, I'm going to go the other way and say that the piano is better. And the reason why this is, when there's level 12s out, unless you want to burn 3 fogs, you're probably not going to be using sound. I mean, you might be, depending on what you're doing, but more often than not, you're probably going to lure in the cogs when there's 1 or more 12s. And the reason why TNT doesn't really do the trick as well as 11s is because the damage just doesn't go high enough. Like, the most damage you can get out of a TNT is 198, which is just 2 damage shy of the 200 necessary to kill the level 12. So my strategy for this is exactly what I just said would be inefficient for the level 11. Now, what you can do is, like, whether it's lured or unlured, you can just use a hose, which does 30, and a max piano, which does 70. Add those up, it's 200. You kill the level 12. Now, and the reason why this is just slightly better is because you don't need that lure. Like, for example, when you get into the VP and there's that singular level 12 cog, like, I'd say 90% of the time, if there's someone with a max piano, they're going to use it to kill that cog. It doesn't work as well when there's multiple level 12s, but then again, you could just lure and use a hose and then use the piano and just worry about that later. Now, with that specific strategy there, like if you have multiple 12s, you lure them in, you use a hose on one, use a piano on the other. That does require 3 gags, and so would using trap, because you could use the lure, the TNT, and then a hose. Like, those would both require 3 gags. But honestly, I would give, for level 12s, the slight edge to the piano, just because you can just use, you know, that 1-2 combo without a lure. And honestly, it just saves gags and it saves times at the same time. Like I said, it's kind of a minuscule difference between 11s and 12s, and like which one is better, because, you know, I think TNT is better for 11s, I think piano is better for 12s. And for that reason, I can't really pin a winner in terms of the versatility, but I can say that most people prefer to use pianos. So I don't know, for that one, so for the damage, I say trap is just slightly better just because of that train track. For versatility, I'd say they're pretty even, because honestly, they each have their own situations in which you can use them, so I'm not really going to worry too much about that. So let's get into another thing that gives one of them just a slight edge over the other. So, if you guys were able to see my video where I tried to solo the VP, there was a very good reason why I miserably failed. And that reason is because I tried using Barnacle Bessie twice, and both times it missed. Now, the reason why this happened, and I didn't know this at the time, like, I just learned this after I shot that video when I told one of my friends. He was like, oh, well, this is why. So, the reason why is that if you were dropless, which Brand, my main toon, he is dropless, then Barnacle Bessies are not guaranteed to hit if you just use them, like, raw. Whereas, to my knowledge, if you have drop max, then a Barnacle Bessie will hit every single time. Now, in terms of soloing, like, being dropless, if you take this into account, being dropless is a terrible idea when you're soloing, because, like, Barnacle Bessie is easily, in terms of damage, is easily the best SOS card in the entire game. And if you're a soloist, you're going to rely on some SOS cards at some point, because having, like, an attack that doesn't waste one of your level 7s, that takes out every, like, all the cogs on the screen with the exception of level 12s with a perfect accuracy, like, you're gonna want that. And if you can just stack up Bessies and just, like, spam those without any chance of it missing, like, that is extremely valuable for a soloist. And for me, like, having 2 of them miss in a row, that was the reason why I lost. Like, I wasn't even able to make it past the first round of the VP because those missed. So, I mean, in terms of Barnacle Bessie, and I guess you could say the counterpart, Clerk Clara, is also good, because that does 180 damage as opposed to Bessie's 170s. I mean, yeah, you can compare that, but in terms of soloing, like, a Clerk Clara, you're still going to get hit by a row of cogs for one turn, so that's not incredibly viable. So yeah, honestly, in terms of the whole Bessie thing, I would hands down say that drop is better in terms of that. Just because, like, that's just an invaluable resource. Like, if you have an insta-kill nuke of all cogs level 11 and below with a near perfect accuracy, then that is just way better than not having that, obviously. So there's that one. So let's recap a little bit. So looking at damage and individual gags, I gave the win to Trap just because it was slightly better in terms of that, and also because the level 7, the Train Tracks nuke, is basically godly. It kills every cog. In terms of the usage, I compared the levels 11 and 12 and strategies with that. Really, no winner with that, just because, honestly, it's kind of, like, different situations require different things, and there's not a huge difference in what you have to do. Like, they both do a bunch of damage, and they both have different ways in which you can do it. So I didn't really give a winner to that because, like, it just depends on the situation. But in terms of the SOS cards like Clara and Bessie, definitely drop wins that one because, like, well, I just spent like 5 minutes explaining it, because Bessie is the best card in the game and it's just superior to that. So honestly, when we take all of this into account, I have to say, now let me divide this into 2 different things. Let me say that I have a personal favorite, but I also have one that I think is just slightly better. Now, my personal favorite is Trap. And the reason for this is because when you take training into account, like, training Trap really isn't that bad if you have a buddy. Whereas training Drop, it's honestly infuriating. At least it was for me. And by the way, like, I've trained both up to max on numerous toons, so this isn't a biased argument in any way. But in my opinion, like, I'm just gonna assume that you have a friend when you're training Trap and Drop, because, like, doing them alone, like, neither of those is fun, because, you know, Trap, you have to take a bunch of damage when you're luring, and Drop, like, it's not gonna hit as much as you want. So I'm just gonna assume that you have someone with you. So in terms of Trap, like, the advantages of training that, or the way that it's made easier, in my opinion, is that, like, you're guaranteed to hit. There's a reason why it says there's perfect accuracy for each Trap gag. It's because there is. Like, if your lure misses, then you can lure it again and it's still going to hit. And if you have another person with you, assuming that you both have lure, like, you're not really going to run out of lure. So you're going to, like, if you play your cards right, you're going to soak up as much experience as possible. Whereas with drop, like, there's a chance of it missing. And if that gag is gone, then it's gone forever. Like, you're not going to get the points. It doesn't linger out there for whenever you want to trigger it. So, in terms of that, I'd say trap is better. One possible argument that could be made against that is that the fact that trap has fewer gags, like, available. For example, you can only carry 2 TNTs and 5 trapdoors instead of 7 safes and 3 pianos. Like, honestly, that does have some influence, especially, like, if you're hitting all your drop gags and you're hitting, like, if you're hitting all your drop gags, you're going to wind up with more experience than trap, just because, like, you have more gags, you have, like, an extra level 6 and extra 2 level 5s at your disposal. But then again, like, this is kind of trivial because, you know, you can stock down a bit. You can get, like, quicksands, you can get marbles and just go for that, and it'll get you a few less points than the other ones, but honestly, it'll do the same amount. And, like, if you stock down with drop, you're lowering the accuracy with each gag track you go down. Like, anvils, those are not going to hit that often. Big weights, like, usually those will hit, but still the accuracy gets lower as you go down because the level of the gag, obviously. So in terms, I'd say I just prefer, and I'm a big training guy, don't get me wrong, like, that's the reason why I kind of centered that opinion around that mostly. Like, I personally just prefer trap because, yeah, it's easier to train in my opinion, especially considering training up to big weight. While it does get considerably easier once you get big weight, it's not fun to get those first 500 points. Like, believe me, anyone who's been through that should know that. But yeah, in terms of just having the level 7 nuke and also being a little bit easier to train, I have to say that I personally prefer trap. So there's one distinction, and like I said, this is all my opinion. If you disagree with it, fantastic. Like, you're entitled to your own opinion. You can leave it in the comments and tell me how you think. But anyway, getting to which one I think is better, I honestly have to go with drop. And the reason why is when you get to a point in the game where you've kind of done everything numerous times, like I first played this game when I was like 6, and I'm almost 19 now. Like, it's pretty pathetic. Don't get me wrong, like, I understand that. But when you've played the game this long, like, you're going to want to challenge yourself a little bit more, and the easiest challenges to find in this game are solos. And honestly, just having that Bessie at your disposal with a perfect accuracy, that is just a little bit too invaluable to pass up. Not to mention, I'd say, like, because level 12s are more powerful than level 11s, and it's a more popular strategy, I'd say using the hose and piano instead of the whole TNT routine on level 12, I'd say that just makes it a little bit more valuable, because, you know, you can kill a level 11 with a piano just the same. I know I said that, like, the whole versatility thing was a little bit trivial, but just in terms of that, I know it's a more popular option. So, yeah, I'd say that trap is just slightly, very slightly better. Now, like, honestly, coming into this argument, I actually had to think a bit because despite playing this game for, like, 10 plus years, you know, they both, like I said at the beginning of the video, they both do their job. I mean, they're both nuke gag tracks, and they both do a ton of damage and aren't incredibly difficult to trigger. And just because of that, like, it's kind of hard to say, like, that there's a bad one and a good one, because, like, they're both good. They both, like, do what they need to do. And the fact that they're so similar is the reason why the majority of tunes either go trapless or dropless. So, I mean, it's just kind of hard to say which one is better, but if I really had to make a decision, I'd say drop is just slightly better. So anyway, we're coming up on about 20 minutes. I'm going to end the video off here. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you have your own opinion, feel free to either message me or leave it in the comments box, and I'd love to read it, love to see what you got to say. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.